Hello everyone, this is Oregon Moto John. I'm really excited to got the suspension back with some revalving. We'll do a ride and review of that later to let you know how it's helped the bike out. Got the front forks on, getting the rear wheel on, or the rear shock on, and I just want to do a quick video on this because getting this shock off was one of the harder shocks. I've taken them off of KTM PDS style and linkage. Like the Husky has a linkage. In this one, I don't know what it was. I just struggled. I had to remove the subframe and the swing arm. So what I did was I take out all the bolts. You remove the rear exhaust, not the header, just the tailpipe. You remove the side fairings, remove the seat. And then I take the bolts out of the subframe. I left the one, these in the top. And then I remove these subframe bolts here. And so now actually, I'm going to put one in here and take this one out of the other side so that I can articulate this chassis. And then we're going to put the rear shock back in, which is exactly how this comes out, is exactly how, or how I'm putting it in is how it came out, if that makes sense. Because I didn't film it coming out because I had too much chaos going on because I'd never done it before. So I'm hoping this will help someone. And I didn't have to remove the gas tank. I didn't have to remove any of the wiring harness. I didn't have to do any of that. Now, I have all the bolts out of the subframe except these top ones. I'm going to pivot this up, slip the shock in, and then lower it back down. So I have the bottom two subframe bolts out, and I left the top two in but loose. I have the swing arm bolt pulled out. Swing arm's just sitting here, and I have this so it's not stressing the brake line. So I kind of just, I'm going to drop this. This goes to the back into the air box. And with this method, you don't have to remove the air box or anything. And you just kind of drop this down in here. You know, just be careful so you don't. And see, for me, getting the swing arm off was essential because I just couldn't navigate this thing out of here with the swing arm on. And you just kind of work this thing in there. And eventually, you'll get it to where it's ready to go in. And then I'm going to lift this up. Make sure I'm not stressing my swing arm. Okay. So I lift this up so I can clear that air box, and I drop it back down, keeping this lined up with where it goes, wiggling it. And there's a little part in the air box where it has to clear. I don't know if you can see this concavity here. This part of the shock has to clear that. It goes to the back, and now it's in there. Now I can put my swing arm back on whenever I feel like it. So that's how you do it. You can leave your top two bolts in. I left all the wiring harness, took out the bottom two subframe bolts, and I lifted this up, put it up in there, and I drop it down, and the air box catches that and kind of will hold it. But I couldn't do that. I tried to do it without loosening up the link and removing the swing arm, and I couldn't do it. Another thing that helped was I left the linkage here to the swing arm, but took out these two linkage bolts there, and I left the linkage up here and just took that out and the shock bolt. So I hope that helps. But that's how you get the rear shock off of a Honda CRF 450 RL. The only thing that came loose when I did this was this breather hose to the airbox, so I just had to be sure to make sure I replace that before I button everything back up. Now it's just a matter of putting all your bolts back in. That's a 17 millimeter up top. There's a hose in the way, but I just push it to the side and I can get at the top shock bolt, and that's a 17 millimeter nut. So it really wasn't bad. But this might save somebody some time. I didn't have to remove anything else other than the swing arm bolt and the bottom two subframe bolts, and I loosened up the top two so that I could pivot this up, you know, the rear subframe up. So anyway, I hope that helps. That's how I got the rear shock out. And feel free to like and subscribe. I'm doing a bunch of upgrades to the 25 Honda 450 RL dual sport bike. Gonna do steering dampener, doing some suspension tweaks on it, and the engine mount, swapping out some engine mounts, played around with torque a little bit, so I'll let you know how those upgrades go in terms of performance of the bike. So if you're into that with this bike, like and subscribe, and I'll try to post helpful tips as they come available. And I'll try to also post, well, I definitely will, things that worked on the bike and things I didn't feel worked on this bike. So I'll try to, help you guys make decisions on what you're going to do to your bike. Something that really helped me out with this project was anytime I'm removing suspension is I have used just a regular center stand, just like a hydraulic one like what I have over here. But it's really been useful to have this tusk stand. I can hydraulically lift it up or down, tie the bike down, and that way, if you need to adjust the rear swing arm, keep it off the ground, lower it, raise the bike, it's really worth its weight in gold. So anyway, you could do it without this, but this definitely makes any kind of work on the bike much, much easier. It's just a tusk hydraulic stand. In case you're wondering, W wheels set me up with these XL rims. I wanted to stay with the stock sizing of 19 in the rear and 21 in the front. So that's why I went with the XL rims instead of the other ones that come on the 23 edition. I think they're the DID wheels. But it's a little lighter gold, but I wanted to stick with stock sizing. So really pleased with how it's turning out. I think it's going to look great on the bike. So, and they got these wheels built for me really quickly, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And they come with all the spacers, wheel spacers and everything. Here's this side before decals, and here is this side after decals. Way better. Actually, this side doesn't look bad without the top piece by the gas tank, but I'm going to put it on anyway, because if you go to the other side, here's what it looks like. Takes away that black and it kind of makes it red. But I could live without either way. I could almost just leave it just like this. No, that looks good. Anyway, I'm going to put it on. And this is by Throttle Jockey. I got this from them, this package, and it's really nice. So the decals are going on good. The only problems I've had is bending around this, but that's me. I'm not great. I did this bike's decals years ago and haven't done really any since. So yeah, I'm okay, but I'm not very good. But this is hard bending this corner, and I'm gonna work on that some more and lightly massage it with a heat gun, and I'll get that better. But that's the toughest piece on the whole bike is those number plates. The front number plate went on like in a minute. That goes on really quick. So it's coming along. Thank you, Throttle Jockey, making the 450 a little less vanilla, a little more exciting.